Dylan, I mean, again, I've been starting these very informally. What's going on right now?
Oh man, there's so many things.
What are we working on?
There's actually like an infinite amount of things. I think right now, the biggest thing is obviously Prototype, and this is like, if for people that don't know what Prototype is, it's a huge art and fashion show that we miraculously pulled off last year in 4 months, like a shotgun wedding, and it became like this big kind of cultural event in the falls that had a lot of kind of notoriety, because I don't think anybody was doing anything, or also it's because like I think I'm still in, but I think the team is collectively like in disbelief that we pulled it off to the caliber in which we pulled it off, and I think that's resonating and making a lot of echoes in the community, and it keeps growing, and that's like I think one of our fundamental projects right now. And then we also in like 8 days have the Prototype fundraiser, so this is kind of like a micro event, PR promotional stunt to kind of sell some tickets, raise money, create awareness, and then like just do some cool kind of art stuff that we're known for, and grab some more attention and get some more money, because this is a very expensive event.
Not a cheap hobby.
Cheap. Yeah, it's not cheap. So we're still in the red of it, but we're trying to get out of there. And I think again, like it's for a good cause. We're kind of creating a platform for designers, creatives, videographers, models, hair and makeup. I mean, Dakota and I were just talking about like all the different creatives that come together to pull something like this off, and it's kind of astounding how much talent it requires. So and it's amazing for like just kind of like the networking kind of machine and everybody that needs to get involved in order to execute something like this at scale. But just for everybody's awareness too, it's like $100,000 event, so it ain't cheap.
But I mean, that was like not our words. The consensus was this was a world-class event last year. And that was the intention, was to showcase what is possible just with the people here in Niagara.
Exactly.
We definitely did that, and I think this year we're really focused on perfecting the model.
100%.
And dialing things in. We've refined the event, and then, I mean, the plan is a lot of us are already thinking about 2026 and year 3, and the intention is that that's going to be the year where we really lock in and launch this thing into the stratosphere.
I think one of our biggest focuses, like you're saying, in 2026 is a scaling. So like if we can scale this sucker to where we want it to be, and it becomes more I guess the word's like like the word I would use is like autonomous or self-sufficient. When the event can like generate what we need to generate in terms of like what we want to do and the capital we need to execute on what we want to do, and I think that's when kind of Prototype's gonna just kind of take off running. Right now we're kind of fighting the odds a bit because we're still in kind of like a kind of an underdog status. Like, who the heck are these guys? Do they have the stamina to keep doing it? Do they believe in themselves? Like all those like Rocky, like all the Rocky questions. So like I think that's kind of where we're at. But I think once we pass a certain threshold, then, I think like more and more is going to be possible.
And it's one of these things too where like just about everybody on the team, I mean, we have an amazing team of 10, 12, 15 people. It keeps growing because people keep buying into the cause. But we're all entrepreneurial / artists. Everybody has their own thing going on. And so we're coming to this, and it's not necessarily about us making money yet. It's more about the cause and the project.
100%.
And so any money we bring in, it's being reinvested into the project.
We're functionally like a nonprofit. It's literally just going like, and again, to like just take a step back, that when we're talking about money, it's literally so that we can do this. It's for purely executional stamina, longevity, so that this thing can keep going and keep running.
And it's about serving
the community,
the artists.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why we're doing it. And the conversations that we've had with like the mayor, Jim Diodati, or some of the people from like culture in Niagara Falls is like, we are doing this solely so that people can come to Niagara Falls, see the creative talent, showcase the creative talent here, and that it becomes this kind of attractor for creative talent instead of everybody leaving Niagara Falls, going to like larger metropolis like places like Montreal or Toronto or Vancouver or whatever, right? We want to create something here that's noteworthy and that is sexy. You know, that creators want to get involved in, and it gives them. I had a conversation not too long ago with Jessica Panetta. She's like a hair and makeup artist. She came to Nada. We had a meeting at a coffee shop down here, and she was just saying that like when we do these types of events, we give kids that are in high school and the younger generation hope. Like, hey, these things are possible. Things are going on here. I don't have to just go work. And this is not to like trash anything, but they're like, they don't have to go work in a salon or just do like weddings. You know what I mean? Like they can actually
be creative
and get outside of these kind of typical employment opportunities.
And you know, like we've talked about, so one thing that came up, I think I was talking to Josh the other day, is we have so many people coming to Niagara every year for tourist reasons. What we are kind of looking at is come for the tourism, stay for the culture. And that's what we're looking at. But then like you said, I mean, we all grew up here. It's like the things we're doing right now we're creating the opportunities that we wanted when we were that age.
Exactly.
And I think that's awesome. And, you know, we're kind of this half generation ahead of the Gen Zs. And so we're like this peer/mentor relationship, and we're getting some young talent coming out and saying, oh, if you're doing this, I want to hop on and I can contribute in these ways. So it's really exciting. Touching on the fact that we are all kind of entrepreneurs and we all have our own things going. I want to talk about what you do outside of Prototype. Like, who do you serve?
So I run a small boutique design agency called Poet, and I work with I guess smaller to mid-sized businesses doing like their brand identity, which is like what I like to do the most. And I think that's where my skill set is maximized when a client comes to me, because like I like creating systems. So like a brand identity system is like, you know, people typically think of it like, okay, you're creating, you know, a logo or a color palette and you're like rebranding a company like that, and those are maybe like the simple kind of typical way to look at branding, but it's so much more than that. It's like the visual identity, how you look, what kind of images you take, how you speak, how you act. There's like all the minutia of a brand. Like you look at like the microcosm of it, from like, you know, what kind of words you use in a caption, or how you speak to a client, or how you write an email, to like the larger things like that people are typically looking at, like a logo or like the images that you take and stuff. So like I kind of create all that for a client, but then on top of that we do web design, we do content creation, whether that's photo shoots, editorial shoots, even AI generation and engineering and stuff. We've used a lot of that for Prototype because like the software is insane, but we can come back to that. Copywriting, like basically everything a business would need in terms of like their creative deliverables, marketing, advertising, like you name it.
And you know, you're mentioning like what brand is, and I I do my consulting stuff, and it's like I find that people don't understand what a brand is, and I've had to define it as like the brand is the sum total of everything that people think and say and feel about your company.
Exactly.
And so it's not your logo, it's not your brand kit, it's not your color palette or your font.
Like those are like typography and font and color and logo are all like major elements within that thing, but basically you're creating a unique universe or world for people to walk into. right?
And it's intangible. It's hard to measure.
Yeah.
But yeah, really interesting stuff. And obviously all of that comes into prototype.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about all our entrepreneurial skills and all our different entrepreneurial kind of ventures, like the reason we were able to do something like prototype is because we had all these different skill sets that we could combine collectively and direct toward a cause, which was the event.
And again, it's you know, the guys working the cameras behind the scenes here came out to one of the recess events, and you know, I think Odin asked, like, what are you guys doing here? What is all this stuff? And
that's a great question.
Yeah, we don't know. We're just making it up day to day.
We're just going.
But you know, I told him about all the projects that we have on the go and all the events and everything, and he was just like, oh, so when you guys want to do something, you just do it.
Yeah.
And it was this realization that all of us kind of had collectively, where it's just like, no one's coming to save us.
Yeah.
If we want these opportunities, we have to create them for ourselves.
100%.
But then we started, and the response has been amazing.
Yeah.
And so many people have hopped on.
Yeah. So
many talented people are contributing their efforts.
Yeah.
And their creativity, and it's just been
that's like
remarkable.
I think I like that a lot, because that's how I've been operating as soon as I entered into like the more entrepreneurial design, art, culture space. It's like, just do it.
Yeah.
You figure out the rest.
Yeah.
By just doing it. Like, you just dive into the process.
Yeah.
I jump into it, because like a lot of people will spend a lot of time in that theoretical planning phase.
I'm a victim of, or guilty of that.
Yeah, like I don't have time. I got to do this. If I got to spend my own money, if I got to use my own resources, if I have to invest a lot of energy and time, like I'm just gonna figure it out in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I preach this all the time. I'm not the best at practicing myself, but it's like the only wrong action is inaction.
Yeah, 100%.
Just do. You'll never learn from just sitting there. Just get out there, do it, and figure it the fuck out.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to help you. I realized too, like even with prototype, like there's a lot of support, there's a lot of help, and even if they can't help, or somebody like doesn't have the resources to help, they usually are able to point you to someone who does, and that leads to more conversations and networking. But like, again, I think it's just putting yourself out there and doing the hard work and taking like the leaps of faith and like letting the process take care of you, because it usually does. I think that's super important,
especially with such a great team like we have, man. I mean, so I want to talk about like, what is the unique value that you bring to the table? Like, you know, a lot of people offer creative direction, branding services, all these types of things. Like, what is the unique?
I think other than like a very, very curated experience that's not templatized, like I offer something very unique to each client, and I think a lot of my skills are harnessed from them by just being able to like do a lot of different things. So one thing that I did, instead of becoming like a master of one thing, I kind of became a generalist. So I started getting good at graphic design, then I moved into web design, then I started like taking up photography, because I know a lot of clients needed that for their headshots, or like food photography or lifestyle photography. Then I just dove into like creative direction too, and managing people and project management, because that's a huge thing. Like, how can you manage a team and manage client expectations and manage timelines and then execute on those? And like, I run a very, very small team. Like, a lot of the work I do myself, and then I subcontract. So like they're coming from me. They're coming from my ideas. They're coming for my skill set. They're coming for my network. They're coming from my ability to get things done. I think that's really important too. Obviously, when we're talking about prototype, like, can you get things done? Can you work under pressure? Can you execute? Like, those are huge. But yeah, to sum it up, I think it's like a very curated one-on-one kind of unique set of deliverables that I offer a client. It's not like cookie cutter, because some branding agencies are really good at like providing a very certain thing and then pumping it out, and every agency has like their own kind of style. Some have like super large teams and they can tackle everything. Some people are good at like working with, you know, the music industry or the hospitality industry or whatever, and I kind of have clients in a lot of different spaces, and I'm able to kind of be versatile in that regard, not only in my own skill set but also different industries. But I like that. Like I like being able to learn something, study, research the industry, and then based off that like come up with a strong brand identity or creative direction or photo shoot or whatever that they, you know, that client particularly needs. But I think that's why people are working with me, and I've been like super busy and packed for like the past 4 or 5 years. And it just keeps growing. But
well, I know I say it all the time. I mean, you're one of the best creative directors that I've ever met or worked with.
God bless you.
And it's it's on the creative side for sure, but it's also on the professionalism side and working with you side. And then so you touched on project management and working with other people. Like
that's huge. Honestly, I think that's like just as important as the creative, and I've tried to develop both sides of me, because some people are like super creative but they don't have that like entrepreneurial business side of them developed. And like that's why it's hard for them to like either get clients or execute with clients or like pitch a client and then close the deal. Like that's very important. Like there's so many things you have to study. Like, okay, how can I manage a budget? How much do I need to cover this budget? How can I work with a client to make sure that I'm pricing things appropriately for them? Because like there's a lot of people in the Niagara region, if you're a small business, you don't have massive budgets. So then as me as an entrepreneur, I have to figure, okay, like what's going to work for both of us? Because if it's too low, I have to say no.
100%.
If it's too high, they're going to say no. So like that's a huge thing that requires a lot of precision and a lot of negotiation and whatnot. And then once you do land the gig, like you're talking about, or like we were talking about, project management's huge. Like you got to be able to execute, and I'm juggling a bunch of clients too, right? So someone else needs something that interferes with like a particular timeline. So that's a huge thing. Project management, time management, and these kind of things are huge. But that's a very business oriented aspect of it that's not creative. Right.
Can you comment on managing teams of creatives and wrangling the creative efforts of a bunch of people who may not be historically the best at that?
I think
type
it's
A
like
organization
when
stuff.
you're working like with prototype, there's a lot of timelines, but it's not as tyrannical. So like we have a little more flexibility, but when you're working for a client and you got to meet a tight deadline, there just needs to be a lot of organization. There needs to be a lot of expectations set beforehand too. Like you have to tell a client like, you know, this is going to take 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 4 months or whatever, and then manage that, and then give your creative team, whether it's a videographer, photographer, enough time. And it's usually like industry standards, typically like 2 weeks turnaround on particular stuff. Like a brand identity, because it's so large and it requires so many assets, can take like 4 months to 6 months to a year.
You got to do a bunch of research too.
There's like so many steps, and again, it depends how in depth that they need you to go. Right? Some branding projects are smaller, some are bigger, some are more elaborate. Some, you know, it varies. But yeah, like I think setting expectations, setting deadlines, setting timelines, knowing who you're working with. Because some people take a little longer, but they're really skilled, and it's like, you know, you communicate that to the client, like, we're going to take a little longer, but, you know, you're going to be very, very happy with the result you're going to get, because we're not trying to rush it. That's I guess like the tension within a creative project. Because like there's timelines. Clients need stuff done. They want to get their business off the ground, or they want to revamp something, and they want a decent turnaround time. So you need to rush things, but the creative process, sometimes the slower you go and you let it marinate, you come up with a better result, right? But what I notice working with clients is like I'll do a brand identity and then I'll work with them long term. So then that brand identity keeps getting refined and evolves, right? So you start somewhere strong, and then based off how their own clientele or their customers react and respond. Like, it's an evolving thing. So a brand's something that you set, but it's also something that's dynamic and evolving and changing and like not static, right?
Which I see on the internal side, on the strategy side. You know, we write a business plan. Well, it's already irrelevant as soon as it's on paper, because the game changes so fast.
100%.
And the bigger the business is, the faster things change. The more moving parts there are in the ecosystem. What are the impacts of your work?
I think making Niagara Falls look sexier, the Niagara region looking sexier, cooler. There's a bunch of agencies here, or a handful of them, that are doing really, really cool work. So I think collectively, like, I would want to consider myself a part of that group in like reshaping kind of what the businesses look like in the Falls, right? So it's not old-fashioned anti-design stuff, like, because a lot of baby boomer business owners that have been operating for a long time, especially pre-digital, like, you didn't need crazy design, you didn't need to be imagistic, you didn't need to be design forward, and you could still get business because a lot of it was pre-internet, right? So it's a lot, you'd have people building relationships,
picking their business names because it would be first in the phone book.
There was a whole different strategy, and it was different, and there was less like saturation in terms of like digital accessibility, right? Because if you're just competing locally with a lot of different businesses in the 70s or 80s or even 90s, it had a totally different feel than it does when you can look up everything on the internet.
And now it's noise too. You have to cut through noise.
There's so much.
You know, like a restaurant is not just competing against other restaurants. It's competing against everything on the internet.
Exactly.
Like, for attention.
So you have to stand out. You have to be consistent. You have to look a certain way. You have to be. I like to use the word cool, like, but that's very niche specific. So like one of my clients, a car independent luxury car dealership. That cool is going to look different from like a restaurant cool, from a nonprofit cool, from like whatever industry they might be in. But I think that cool, just like, okay, so they present visually in a certain way, and that attracts people to them. And like, that's our job as designers and marketers, is to attract attention and then help that company convert. So like with let's just use the vehicle exchange for an example. We market them, we brand them in a certain way so that they stand out in their industry, and then people come to them, and then that is passed off onto like the sales team, right? And then they sell the cars. My job is to bring attention and interest,
that top of funnel
to that company.
And I mean, a lot of the stuff that you've been talking about, the work you do, you talk about like businesses 70s, 80s, 90s even. These weren't even talking points. These weren't even considerations.
They weren't even on the radar. I mean, like, for bigger companies and stuff, obviously it's different. You had television, you could advertise and stuff. It's a lot.
But now the mom and pop shop needs to be considering this stuff.
Dude, everybody has marketing power in their pocket, so everybody needs to take advantage of that. And if you don't, like, you're losing out. And there's probably still some companies that can do really well just through networking and building relationships within the community and stuff like that. But like, you can really accelerate and expand your business if you're leveraging digital platforms and social media platforms in a unique, novel way. But like you said, there's so much noise. I think even the CEO, I forget his name, or he could even be the ex-CEO of Netflix now. Like, they were talking, they're like, Twitter's our competition, Facebook is our competition, sleep is our competition, right? So anything that like is not is cutting into that kind of attention economy, like, becomes a competitor.
100%.
So there's just like, it's like super saturated. So
long term, like, what's the long term vision here, man? Like, what are you steering at?
I think about this every day, and I don't know exactly how to get there, but I want more freedom, and I want more time, and that obviously requires two things: to make more money and to scale, so that I can work on and outside of the business and not always just of grinding within it like a cog in a machine. Like I need to be outside of it. So I want to get the design agency to that level. I want to get prototype to that level, and then I'd like to get more of my like something always takes a hit. The art's been taking a hit. I haven't had as much time to like paint and stuff. Like I'd like to do that more. So those are all big goals for me. I think freedom. Yeah. I think freedom, having more time, and then obviously having the money to sustain that is important. And I'm not even like, I mean, obviously as an entrepreneur and as somebody who runs a business, like you have to make money, but that's never been like my true focus. I want freedom. I want time. I want to do cool creative projects. Like I think over the past 4 years, I don't even want to do the accounting on how much money I've spent just like investing in art events, in art projects, and actually like painting and buying supplies, supporting other artists. Like it's been a lot. So like I could probably be more successful in my business if I didn't do those things. But I want to be a part of the community. I want to grow the falls. I want to like support where I'm at. Like that's like very, very important to me. And I'm already seeing the impact, and I'm seeing the team that we built, and that keeps me going, and that keeps the fire lit. But like I could probably be way less burned out if I just like cut everything out. Just said, okay, I'm just gonna focus on designing and scale my company. I'm just gonna worry about me. So like that's something that I haven't been doing, and I'm constantly negotiating. So like like the more that I can scale and get help and help these creative endeavors that I'm doing gain more autonomy and freedom, then I think that's kind of where I want to be.
You know, I'm the same. We all kind of struggle with that. Yeah. So what is the long-term vision in terms of impact that you want to have, and like why do you continue to make these decisions?
I want like creativity and like the design world and like art and culture to be taken more and more seriously. Like I want people to look at this, and I've said it before and I've kind of used it as a mantra, but I want Niagara and then art and culture and stuff in general to be like a force to be reckoned with. Like I want people to see stuff that we're doing and go, holy shit. Yeah. Like I don't even think that was possible.
All around the world.
Who are these people? Yeah, like I want to keep growing it. Like obviously like, you know, we're making a little bit of a splash in like the region and maybe even provincially, but like I want to keep expanding out to Canada and then globally and attract that kind of talent and attention.
And the city of Niagara Falls, the name Niagara Falls is internationally recognized anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Joe was telling a story the other day about when he did his Philippines trip, you know, a guy in the middle of the jungle in the Philippines is referenced Niagara Falls. Like heard that Joe was from Canada and made a comment about Niagara Falls without knowing he's from here.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal that this guy referenced. The first thought in his head when someone said Canada was Niagara Falls. Yeah, we got to be capitalizing on that.
So that's you. Well, I mean, the seventh wonder of the world. I mean, there's a lot happening here. I mean, we met with Jim Diodati, the mayor, and he was saying how they're going to increase even with the GO train, they're going to like double or triple tourism here because it's going to be easier for people from Toronto and the city to come on a regular basis. With
apparently this hovercraft across the lake is actually happening soon. That's awesome.
Actually so sick. I wish that I think they had like ferries and stuff going before, but this would be cool. Yeah, like just creating
30
this
minutes
experience for people.
door
like,
to door.
We have like it's a beautiful region in terms of like wine country and stuff.
The nature
like that.
Here.
Yeah,
the
like
world class hikes.
Food, like the food is getting like better and better. Like if we keep building culture here, I think doing cool art events. Obviously, you have like the more traditional stuff like the casinos and like all the tourist things down by the falls and stuff in Clifton Hill, but. It's just having that dynamism, right? Like you can come here, you can go gamble if you want, you can go to wine country and check out like the cool wineries we have, grab an amazing meal at somewhere like Fat Rabbit or whatever in St. Catharines, the Shore in Jordan, and then come check out like a fashion show, an art show that we're doing or whatever, right? Like stuff.
And I mean too, even in the past few weeks, you know, when we sat down with Jim Diodati, he was like, you need to talk to this person, this person, this person.
Yeah.
There are other people who are doing big things here. Yeah. I think there's an element of, we've done a good job of making something from nothing. Yeah. But I think we need to be working on amalgamating the resources of everybody else who is also doing something 100%. Of nothing. Yeah. So I think that's kind of part of our next chapter too, is getting in touch with the other players around here. And like, guys, let's all work together. Yeah. This is a small town. Yeah. I think can work together.
I think you're right. I think that's like a key part of our ethos is like just networking and connecting and like we're a team.
Service.
Exactly. Yeah. We're a team. We're not trying to compete against one another. Yeah. Like, how can we share resources? How can we help you, help us? Like, let's help each other.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
What motivates you to take action? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
That's a good question. I think it's more like, if I was to answer this truthfully, probably it's more going to be more philosophical, which would be like finitude. Like, we're going to die. I don't have infinite time. I want to do cool things while I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a brutalist philosophical perspective on just like the finitude of life and time and the lack of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have, if I had infinite time, like you could take your time and do stuff, but like I need to act now, get stuff done. It adds a little bit more urgency and anxiety and stress, but I think it also is an amazing catalyst for action. So
I've always found mortality to be a very good motivator.
It's literally, like, I think about it all the time, just like time is very, very short. Life is very, very short, and I want to like build things, and also coming from just like understanding, I think, art history and even intellectual history too. It's like, if you build stuff, and maybe just even genealogy in general, like if you build stuff, you're leaving it for the next generation to start off better, and then they can build off ideas, and they can take things and they can take it one step further. So like, if somebody can come and the next generation can come and like see what we're doing and say, hey, I want to take the reins on this and like bring it to the next level, that's what you want. It's almost like the cultural imperative, like a biological imperative, reproduction or recapitulation, right? You're taking these forms and you're reproducing them so that they have longevity and stamina moving into the future.
And that's the theme in entrepreneurship and creatorship in general, where it's just like, you a lot of times end up serving, creating solutions for past you. Yeah. And we've already touched on that in this conversation, where it's just like, we're creating the opportunities that we wanted when we were 18, 19. Yeah. And then we're having a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds come in and be like, this is awesome. Can I get involved? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Please.
I think that's a part of it too. It's just like, like connecting people and getting all these people involved and getting them hyped. Like that's all. Other than like the melancholic philosophical position that I just took, it's like people are hyped, and that energy is contagious, and it's like, people are seeing what we're doing, and I'm seeing what other people are doing, and trying to connect all the artists here and make a scene. Like, who doesn't want to be part of a cool scene that like everybody kind of belongs to and like can just do what they love to do and get attention and praise and support for. Like, that's the dream.
Well, I don't know about your experience here. I mean, you grew up in the Falls. Yeah. I grew up in Port Colborne. Yeah. Which is a small town, very small town at the southern end of the Niagara region. Yeah. I don't know what your experience was like, but anytime I shared my big dreams with anybody, I was told how impossible they were. Yeah. Is that, can you relate to that?
I think, like, I don't ever think that was like explicitly said to me, but definitely implicitly. Yeah. Like, definitely they're like, you need to, do X, Y, or Z, or move into a very particular career path, or you're probably going to struggle.
And so just to be people to show the next generation or half generation coming up just after us, no, you can do it.
100%.
Oh, that's me.
Can you find it?
The fucking timer set. I don't even know why.
Oh, it's just a timer.
It reminded me to take breaks. And then I silence them and don't take breaks. Or it's in the middle of the fucking interview or something.
It's okay, we're keeping that in. No cutting. No cuts. Raw.
Let me see. Okay, here's one for you. Define good versus evil.
That's so tough. That's such a huge...
No pressure.
Philosophically, religiously, spiritually debated concept. Good. I think I'd probably be Spinoza. So Spinoza was a philosopher, and when I was studying my MA, he was probably a central figure because a French philosopher named Dillon Douglas kind of took up his work and called him like the Christ of philosophers, because he basically set up a philosophical system where everything is what he would call like immanent and connected to everything, and that life now becomes a central, productive, catalyzing, enriching force that like basically generates everything in the world. And it's not like a traditional theism. For Spinoza, God's in everything. Okay. So God is in everything. There's no transcendent God, but God's kind of like this auto-causal power creating everything. So like we're parts of God, the clouds are parts of God, flowers are parts of God, a dog shit is part of God. Like these are all nodes in this large system that is God. And I think for Spinoza, good looks kind of something like connecting with something, connecting with the world, and increasing your power to act within it. So for him, it's an influx or an increase in our potential to act in the world. And then evil in that regard would be a subtraction or a decrease, or when things are in tension, or pardon me, in like a intention or in conflict, that they don't connect in a particular way, and that leaves them more isolated. That leaves them more disconnected. Those connections make them less potent. They make them less able to act in the world. So for Spinoza, good and evil shed their kind of moralistic categories and really become more connected to life and how human beings and how things in the world connect with one another, so that they can shape that world with their power to act, or their potential to act, or something like that. Their creative power, in other words, right? So if you can increase your creative power, that's good. And if you subtract that, or that's taken away, or there's more disconnection, that would be evil, or that would be bad. And like there's like more complicated analyses of this, and there's like more nuances, but like if I was to kind of answer your question, I would probably take that kind of framework, because I think it sheds a lot of moralism, and you really enter into, like, again, like when I was talking about immanence, that space of life that we're living, right? So these aren't transcendent categories, which there's like predetermined answers. That's bad, that's good, that's evil, that's that. It really recontextualizes it into the sphere of life.
Well, it's actually useful at that point, because the moralistic side of good and evil, like, is subjective. Yeah. And the issue arises when people think that, well, my conception of right and wrong is right and yours is wrong, and it's just like, well, so does everybody else. Like that. Like, what the fuck?
And in a way, this is like, it's almost measurable, and it does align with like maybe traditional forms of like or morality, or if you're killing and harming people and you're like, you know, destroying the connections that are able to make so that we can live in a more like fruitful, vital, connected world, like, that's clearly evil or bad. Or if you're narcissistic and you're just working alone and you're trying to compete against everybody, and like you're not building, you know, relationships, like, you know, that's probably more evil too. But if you're connecting with people and you're growing and you're like, there's more symbiotic relationships with people, with things, with the world, with culture, with the ecosystem, like, you know, like there's going to be more power, there's going to be more good, there's going to be more vitality, right? Because people want to live enriching lives. So I think Spinoza's philosophy, even though it can be very, very abstract, like, is very, very practical at that.
Well, I think of an application, and it's one of my partner / clients. Yeah. He has a software that serves, it's an AI-powered scribe for medical clinics, right? He grew up in a family where his parents are dentists. His whole family is, clinicians in the medical field of some sort. Yeah. And he was going to take his career in that direction, right? And then he said he realized somewhere along the way that, like, you can help a lot of people as a doctor. Yeah. But you can help a lot more people as an entrepreneur who serves doctors. Yeah. And it might be secondary, tertiary impacts, but, to take a step backwards and focus on helping people who help people. Yeah. You can have a lot more impact that way. And we were talking about, I asked him, why do you do this? Why do you play the game of entrepreneurship? And that's, I always ask that with new clients, because it's like, if we're not aligned on that, there's not any point in figuring out what we can do with each other. But I asked him that, and his answer was, there's the element of, because the game is fun, the challenge is fun. You play the game for the sheer enjoyment of it. But, his answer was very focused on, I realized that this was one of the best ways to amass a lot of resources very quickly, and then I can use those resources to help people and have the impacts that I want to have. And I'm seeing that in what you're describing. Yeah. The more successful you are at amassing and amalgamating resources, the more impact you can have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So that would be my answer.
Cool.
Which is a tough question. It's a good question. Some people probably aren't. I don't know. I think like that. It has such a history, right? Like, it has such a long philosophical, religious, spiritual history that it's like, it influences, like, it can definitely influence somebody's answer.
I studied mainly philosophy in university, and what I learned was the value is not in the answers; it's in the questioning.
Yeah, 100%.
It's in the examination. It's in being open to hearing other people's opinions. Yeah. And if yours hold in the face of other opinions, then good. Yeah. And if they don't, then be open to reconsidering things. Like, it's
because that's how knowledge is gained, is through that. That's why philosophical questioning, when it deconstructs common habits or common ways of thinking or living or whatever, like, it's kind of dangerous. Right? Because people don't want to be challenged to think, or they want to hold an opinion, and it's immortal, it's immutable,
ignorance is bliss. Like, that is a real thing.
Yeah. So when you start questioning, that's why they killed Socrates, because he was like, they said he was corrupting Athenian youth.
Too dangerous.
And he's asking questions, because he'll go up to the priest and he'll say, what is holy? Or he'll go up to the artist and say, what is beautiful? He'll go up to the politician and say, what is just? And then by like these infinite, like the Socratic method, which is really just a method of, like, questioning, they didn't have an answer. Yeah. So then you realize they didn't actually know what they were talking about, and what they were doing instead is they're holding up an ideology. Yeah. Which is like, okay, they're believing this because that is what they've been taught to believe or think.
And it's serving them well, because they're probably in a position of power.
Exactly. They're all, maybe not the artist as much, but obviously like the politician or the priest or these kind of individuals who, they were in positions of power. So
we could probably talk about this all day.
Let's keep going.
I got one more for you. What is your reaction to the following statement? Entrepreneurship isn't a marathon, it is a series of sprints.
Okay, interesting. A series of sprints. Do you mean, like, I'm trying to think if I understand this properly. Like, if it's a series of sprints, there's these moments of intensity that you kind of break through things. It's not like this slow building thing. I think I actually agree with that. I think, and I think life too functions in this way, by a series of interruptions, ruptures, intensities, revelations, breaking points. Like, that's actually what gets things done.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some people maybe succeed through like long, slow, calculated steps and processes, but like that hasn't been
in entrepreneurship or in.
I think I think some people have the luxury of either maybe their family members or something and like inheriting wealth and stuff, so it's different. But like if you're like starting from nothing and don't have mentors and don't have resources, like you're experimenting. You don't have, like, I didn't know what I was gonna do. Like I'm just taking leaps. I'm trying to like provide things for clients. I'm guessing. I'm taking opportunities. I'm trying to be opportunistic when I need to be opportunistic. I'm trying to be calculated when I need to like plan things. Like things just happen. Things fell into my lap. Like there was like literally, I don't know if I want to call them miracles, but like there was like opportunities, detours, like all sorts of things that happened to me to lead me to this point, and like they were not planned. They were not predetermined. I think I was like in a work mode and in a space where I could like handle them and deal with them and jump on them and like
rise to the
rise to the occasion. Exactly, right? Because that's basically what you're constantly preparing yourself for. But it's definitely not like a long trained for marathon. It's like, okay, something happens, you got to move on it quick, or like it's like stocks too. It's like you got to take a risk with this thing and move with it, or if you wait too long and you're trying to be too calculated, you miss out on it. Because there's going to be risks, there's going to be failures, you're going to lose money, you're going to make money, you're going to find great opportunities, and things are going to happen, and you know you're going to run into a ton. Basically entrepreneurship is like running into an infinite amount of problems and walls, and you have to figure out how to leap over them. And if you don't, then you get stuck or you fall.
And it's definitely not for everybody, but
no, like
the game is fun, man. It's some people.
It is fun. It's exhilarating. Like I meet new people all the time. I get to work on cool different projects. Like I'm really thankful for all the clients that I have and I work with. Like they're amazing, and I get to do cool work, and like a lot of them trust me with like my creative ideas and their business identities, I guess you would want to call it. And like it's a thrill. It's also like exhausting, and there's burnout, and there's like all the other flip side that comes with it too. But I think at the end of the day, the positives outweigh the negatives, if you even want to call them that. I think it's just a matter of like you got to learn how to balance and take care of yourself,
and there's negatives to the other path too.
Like if you get stuck in a 9 to 5 and people hate that, or you know you're working a career that you thought you would love, but then it's like draining you and you're doing the same thing every day. Like there's
I've seen the comparison of like on one path you kind of get more stability and security, but you're sacrificing living up to your full potential and living out your dreams, and then on the other one you're pursuing your dreams and living up to your full potential, but you're sacrificing a lot of that stability and security, and
100%.
it is what it is, man. There's choice, whatever. The full statement too is entrepreneurship isn't a marathon, it's a series of sprints, parentheses, ideally broken up by periods of deep rest and reset.
Okay, interesting.
This was a breakthrough I had recently. I used to say that entrepreneurship is a marathon all the time, but the metaphor... Because
you think it... Because it is,
you gotta think long term.
It kind of... I know what that means, but if you break it down...
The metaphor of the marathon breaks down really quickly because you don't know where the end... There's no finish line. It's not a constant pace the whole time.
No. Exactly.
You don't know the route.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more like sprinting blindfolded in a forest, and you stop when you hit something.
And you just
regroup,
have to figure it out.
And then go fucking do something.
You do. It's true. There's not a template. It's not template.
Which, I mean, in my work outside of prototype and the creative side of things, I'm really trying to get that going. And I think with AI, there's never been a better opportunity to help people build the template, build the path for themselves. And again, you don't need to know 100 steps ahead. You just got to be confident about the next 1 or 2 steps. And then just focus on being present and executing. But
I don't know if it was it Steve Jobs or whatever. I forget the exact quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it too, but he's like, you don't have to focus on the long term. It's just like you need to focus on like the top 3 things that you need to do today that's going to move your business forward. So I'm just like, that's kind of how I operate. Okay, like I just simplify it. I do a kind of a week. Okay, what do I have to get done this week to keep moving everything forward? And like you obviously have like those long-term visions in plan, but like that stuff just is so amorphous and changing.
And you can't picture what it's going to look like a year from now.
Yeah, like I don't know, like somebody could call me and I can get like a cool gig, or something could happen like, you know, in the next couple weeks, and that totally shifts, like,
which happens all the time in this group. Like we're like,
like we don't know.
Last week we had everything. Everything
like
changes so fast.
It changes, and like you meet one connection, or somebody wants to get on board or involved, and like it just changes the whole trajectory, or it takes off a lot of stress, or moves us in another direction.
These guys volunteering to shoot for me, all of a sudden my day-to-day is completely different since last week. You know what I mean? Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, God bless you guys, by the way. We respect the behind the scenes stuff, because we're always involved.
Yeah, because I would have done this anyway, except it would have just been the camera on a tripod.
Yeah, it's a lot more
probably worse audio quality. I would have edited it myself, which wouldn't have been great. Like it. Anyway, how can people find you?
Here's another thing too. Like, I've just been so busy with work and referrals and stuff, like I haven't even had time to finish my actual design portfolio site, which would be like a lead generation system that I create for all my other clients. But you can find me either through the Prototype Instagram or my art Instagram, which is at poetry.sux, or poetry sucks. Yeah, those are probably the two best channels to reach me, or I could give my phone number on here or something.
I wouldn't do that. You
don't my email or phone number, but yeah, hit me up on Instagram. That's probably the best way to find me, and then you can get a glimpse into like a little bit of the work that I do.
Also, come to Prototype.
Yeah, come to Prototype. Come to the if you want to come talk and chat and have a little more like one-on-one time, come to the Prototype fundraiser. Yeah. At Ironwood, which is down the street in Noddle here. You can find the address on our Instagram. Yeah. And that's coming up in just a little over a week, 8 days. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be sick.
Which is a lifetime away, but also so soon.
Dude, it's like Prototype's in 2 months.
I know. I don't want to talk about that right now.
So that's crazy. Yeah. But it feels less, because we did it last year. Everything feels like less of a.
We're more refined. We got a great team. Yeah. We got one under our belts.
Yeah.
Just got a great title sponsor today. Like, life is good, man.
We're doing good,
brother.
God bless you, dude.
Always a pleasure. Let's cut it there.
It's a wrap.
Peace.
All right.